Picture this. It's a Saturday morning. The house is quiet. No one's asking where you're going. No one's checking the clock. You pour your coffee exactly the way you like it. Strong, black, no conversation. And you sit by that window, and for the first time in maybe decades, you feel something strange, and then the guilt kicks in because society spent 40 years telling you that this feeling, this specific stillness, is something to be afraid of, that a man alone past 60 is somehow a man who failed, that the absence of a partner is a wound, not a choice. That quiet mornings aren't peaceful, they're lonely. Here's the thing nobody says out loud. That story is completely wrong. Welcome to Psycho Shift. This channel exists to challenge the mental frameworks you've been handed without your consent and hand you better ones. Today, we're going after one of the biggest myths attached to men in their 60s, that being single is something to survive rather than something to leverage. Think about the last 20, 30 years of your life. How much of what you did was genuinely yours? The job you stayed in because it made sense for the family, the house in the neighborhood that worked for everyone else, the vacations that weren't quite vacations because there were 11 different preferences to manage, the hobbies that got shelved, not dramatically, no big moment, just slowly, because there was always something more pressing. This is what psychologists call identity erosion. It doesn't happen in one painful event. It happens Tuesday after Tuesday after Tuesday, until one day you're standing in a hardware store buying something you don't need for a project you don't care about, and you genuinely cannot remember what you used to think about before all of this. Most people miss this. They look at a single man over 60 and see absence. They don't see the extraordinary psychological opportunity sitting right underneath that absence, because here's what the research actually shows, and this comes out of Erik Erikson's work on adult development. Men in their 60s who engage in what's called ego integrity work, meaning they consciously examine who they are separate from their roles, report dramatically higher life satisfaction than men who simply continue performing the identity they built in their 30s. Translation: the man who uses this chapter to figure out who he actually is tends to end up far more fulfilled than the man who rushes to rebuild the exact same structure he just left. So, what do you do with this? You don't wait for inspiration. You start with one simple question every morning, and you take it seriously. What would I do today if absolutely no one was watching and no one was keeping score? Start there. Write it down. Do it badly. The identity you recover is worth more than any relationship you could rush into to avoid finding it. Let me show you how this actually works, because most conversations about single men over 60 focus on the emotional angle and completely skip the structural reality underneath it. A man in his early 60s who is single, genuinely, consciously single, is sitting on one of the most underrated financial positions available to a human being in the modern Western world. Think about what that picture actually looks like. One income to manage, one set of preferences driving spending, no lifestyle inflation from a second person's expectations, no negotiated compromises on housing costs or location. Here's where it gets interesting. Studies on post-divorce financial recovery consistently show that men who embrace single living, rather than immediately repartnering, actually accumulate more net worth in the 5 to 8 years following their transition, not because they're miserly, because their spending becomes intentional rather than reactive. Consider a man named Gerald, 63 years old, recently divorced after a 28-year marriage. His first instinct was to downsize out of embarrassment, get a small apartment, lay low, stop spending. His friends suggested the opposite. Don't shrink your life, redesign it. Gerald took his half of the equity from the house, bought a 2-bedroom place outright in a smaller city he'd always liked, and banked the rest. His monthly expenses dropped by 40%. He went from working 60 hours a week to 40. 2 years later, he was considering retirement 5 years ahead of schedule. Gerald didn't get lucky, he got unencumbered. This isn't about hoarding money or being selfish. It's about recognizing that financial clarity is one of the genuine structural gifts of single life, but only if you actually engage with it rather than feeling vaguely guilty about it. So what do? You sit down this week, not someday, and you map out what your money actually does now versus what you want it to do. You don't need a financial advisor to answer the first question. Is what I'm spending on actually making my life better? That one question, honestly answered, is worth more than most investment strategies. Here's what most people miss about male friendship patterns. Research out of Oxford, Robin Dunbar's work specifically, found that men's social networks operate differently than women's. Men bond through shared activity, not shared conversation. And here's the cruel irony. Long-term relationships, as deeply valuable as they can be, often quietly dismantle male friendships because the primary social bond migrates almost entirely to the partnership. Think about the guys you knew at 45. How many of those friendships are still active? If you're honest, probably far fewer than you'd like. Not because anyone was a bad friend, because you were all deeply embedded in the architecture of your respective family units, and male friendship requires the kind of low-stakes, repeated, side-by-side time that family life tends to crowd out. Single. Life after 60 blows that constraint wide open. A man named Thomas, 67, told me something I haven't forgotten. He said the 3 years after his wife passed were the loneliest of his life. But then he realized the loneliness wasn't about her absence specifically, it was about the absence of structure. Once he started showing up to a Thursday morning cycling group, then got roped into helping restore an old sailboat with a couple of guys from that group, his world changed. Not because he found a replacement, because he built something new. Let that sink in for a second. The social life available to an engaged single man over 60 is not a lesser version of the partnered life. It's a fundamentally different one, and for many men, it's richer. Because every relationship in it is chosen deliberately rather than inherited through obligation. And here's the psychological dimension that matters. Men who maintain 3 or more close friendships past 60 show significantly reduced cognitive decline and dramatically lower rates of depression compared to men who rely on a single primary relationship for all their social nutrition. Single life forces you to build the diversified social portfolio that actually protects your long-term health. So what do? Stop waiting for friendship to happen to you. Pick one activity you genuinely enjoy, not one that seems like a good idea, one you actually want to do, and put yourself in the same room as other people doing it, consistently, for at least 90 days. Consistency is the mechanism, the connection follows. Think about this. When you were in a long-term relationship, how much of your health was actually managed around your own needs versus the rhythm and preferences of someone else? The eating habits you accommodated, the sleep schedule that wasn't quite yours, the stress you absorbed because her stress became your stress and vice versa, the doctor's appointments you skipped because there was always something else going on. Research published in the Journal of Health and Social Behavior found something that seems counterintuitive at first. Men in high conflict or low satisfaction long-term relationships had worse cardiovascular outcomes than men living alone. The key variable wasn't partnership itself, it was chronic low-grade stress. And for a significant percentage of long-term relationships, that chronic stress is simply part of the texture of daily life. Single men over 60 who are intentional about their health don't have a ceiling imposed on them. No negotiating the dinner menu, no accommodating someone else's sedentary preferences, no skipping the early morning gym session because it disrupts someone else's routine. But, and this matters, intentionality is the operative word, because the flip side is also true. Single men who aren't intentional can slide into genuinely terrible health habits with no external check at all. The freedom is real, and it requires ownership. Here's where it gets interesting. Men who take conscious ownership of their health in their 60s tend to report something unexpected, a sense of agency they haven't felt in years, because when you make your sleep, your food, your movement, your stress management entirely your own project, and you start seeing results, it shifts something in your self-concept. You stop being a man things happen to, you start being a man who decides. So what do you do? Pick one non-negotiable. One thing: sleep, walking, eliminating one genuinely damaging habit, and lock it in for 30 days without exceptions. The goal isn't transformation. The goal is proving to yourself that your body is under your management again. That proof changes everything. This one requires you to stay with me for a minute because it's subtle. There's a specific kind of richness available to a man who reaches his 60s with significant life experience. Real experience, the kind with loss and failure and joy and complexity in it, and has unstructured time to actually engage with it. This isn't available to younger men, who have the time but not the depth. It isn't fully available to partnered men, who have the depth but not the unstructured access to it. The single man over 60, who's willing to be present with his own life, sits at a genuinely rare intersection. Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations not as a young philosopher with time to theorize. He wrote them as a middle-aged man with enormous responsibilities, who carved out private space to think honestly. Those private reflections became one of the most influential documents in Western philosophy, not because he was the smartest person of his time, because he had depth of experience and was willing to look at it directly. I'm not saying you're going to write the next Meditations. I'm saying that the psychological depth available to a man at this stage of life, if he actually engages with it rather than distracting himself from it, is genuinely something. There's creative work that only this version of you can do. There's wisdom that only emerges from this exact combination of experience, perspective, and freedom. Think about the men you've known who seem to radiate something hard to name, a kind of settled, undefended presence. They weren't the men who kept frantically building. They were the men who got quiet enough to figure out what was actually true. Single life past 60 can give you that, but only if you let it. So what do? Resist the urge to fill every hour. Deliberately create space, even 45 minutes a day, where you're not consuming anything. No phone, no TV, no podcast. Just you and your own thoughts. This is deeply uncomfortable at first. That discomfort is not a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign you're doing it right. Let's address this directly, because a lot of men get stuck here. Being single doesn't mean the absence of intimacy or connection. It means the absence of obligation. Those are not the same thing. Men over 60 who are consciously single, meaning they've made a genuine choice rather than defaulting into avoidance, tend to have a different relationship with romantic connection than younger men, or men who feel pressured by the social script. They're not looking to fill a role. They're not performing. When they connect with someone, it's because there's actual mutual resonance, not because there's a vacancy that needs filling. Here's what's fascinating psychologically. Attachment research suggests that men who've done genuine self-reflection, who understand their own patterns, needs, and triggers, make dramatically better partners when they choose to partner. The irony is that the intentional single life is often the best preparation for a genuinely good relationship, if and when you want one. But here's what most people miss. Choosing to remain single is not a consolation prize for a significant percentage of men over 60. It is the fully chosen, fully examined, genuinely preferred way to live, and there's nothing wrong with that. 0. The cultural pressure that says a man must be partnered to be complete is a story that serves the culture, not the man. So what do? You get honest with yourself about what you actually want, not what you think you should want, not what would make other people comfortable, not what your married friends assume you must be longing for. What do you actually want? That answer, whatever it is worth more than any advice anyone can give you. Here's the thing that ties all of this together, and I want you to really hear this. The narrative around single men over 60 is almost entirely written by people who are either afraid of that life or haven't lived it. It's written by people who assume that because something is common, being partnered, building a family, organizing your life around a relationship, it's therefore better, and that assumption goes largely unexamined. But you've spent your whole life examining things now. That's what experience does, if you let it. You know by now that common isn't the same as right, and familiar isn't the same as good, and the path that looks safe from the outside isn't always the one that leads somewhere worth going. Single life past 60, lived intentionally and without apology, is not a diminished life. It's a different architecture, one with different strengths, different freedoms, different demands, and different rewards. It asks more of you in some ways, because there's no external structure to hold you accountable. It gives more to you in others, because everything you build is genuinely yours. The man who figures that out, who stops grieving the life he thought he was supposed to have and starts building the one he actually wants, that man tends to find something unexpected, not just contentment, something closer to vitality. And vitality at 60? That's not the end of something. That's exactly when it gets interesting.